Elvis Aaron Presley, 35, musician, entertainer, Memphis, Tennessee. The success of Presley is a phenomenon of the entertainment world. He is one of the most well-known and prolific entertainers in the nation. 51 of his single records have won gold record awards for sales of more than 1 million records. Unlike other entertainers, he has intentionally concealed many acts of philanthropy which might have brought him considerable publicity.
I'd like to thank the Jaycees for electing me as one of the outstanding young men. When I was a child, ladies and gentlemen, I was a dreamer. I read comic books and I was the hero of the comic book. I saw movies and I was the hero in the movie. So every dream that I ever dreamed has come true 100 times. And these gentlemen over here, you see these type people who care, who are dedicated, you realize that it's not possible that they might be building the kingdom of heaven. It's not too far-fetched in reality. I'd like to say that I learned very early in life that without a song, the day would never end. Without a song, a man ain't got a friend. Without a song, the road would never bend. Without a song. So I'll keep singing a song. Good night. Thank you.
He had stood in front of crowds his whole life, hundreds of shows, tens of thousands of screaming fans at a time. And yet, on the night of January 16th, 1971, in Memphis, Elvis Presley stood in the wings of an auditorium, head down, sweating, and admitted he was scared to death. This wasn't a concert. There were no fans here to faint at the sight of him. This was a room full of scientists, businessmen, politicians, and Elvis was about to be counted among them. What happened on that stage, and the few quiet lines he chose to close with, tell you more about how Elvis saw himself than almost anything he ever said into a microphone. So tonight, the speech, the song he picked, and why this one award meant more to him than any gold record. Let's start with what this actually was, because the name gets thrown around without much explanation. The honor was the United States Junior Chamber of Commerce, the Jaycees, and their annual selection of the 10 outstanding young men of the nation. Elvis was chosen for the year 1970, with the ceremony held in Memphis on January 16th, 1971. The program wasn't some music industry trophy. The Jaycees had been handing out this recognition since the late 1930s. It honored 10 Americans between the ages of 18 and 40 who, in the organization's words, best represented the highest qualities of the country's rising generations. Over the years, the list had included scientists, inventors, filmmakers, and men headed for the highest offices in the land. Today, the same award continues under the name the 10 Outstanding Young Americans. So picture the company Elvis was keeping that night. He wasn't the headliner. He was one of 10, sitting alongside achievers from fields that had nothing to do with show business. When Elvis finally took the podium, but first, the backstage moments. Here is the detail I think that matters most. According to the chairman of the program that year, Frank C. Taylor, Elvis was genuinely rattled backstage. Taylor reminded him that he'd performed in front of far larger crowds. Elvis's reply, as it was later reported, was simple. Yeah, but not like this. Taylor's read on it has always stuck with me. He said it was a different plateau for Elvis, that for the first time, Elvis was being measured on the same level as high achievers, outside of entertainment, and for the first time he felt accepted as a true professional among them. I think that's the whole key to the night. The nerves weren't stage fright. They were the nerves of a man who grew up poor and ridiculed, suddenly being told by the establishment that he belonged. When Elvis finally took the podium, he didn't read a polished, ghost-written address. What came out was short, a little rough around the edges, and deeply personal. The most reliable transcription we have comes from Jerry Osborne's Elvis, word for word. He thanked the Jaycees for electing him as one of their outstanding young men, and then he reached back to his childhood. When I was a child, ladies and gentlemen, I was a dreamer. I read comic books and I was the hero of the comic books. I saw movies and I was the hero in the movie. So every dream I ever dreamed had ever come true 100 times. Sit with that line for a second. Every dream I ever dreamed had come true 100 times. This is a man taking stock of his entire life out loud, in public, in front of his peers. Then he turned toward the other 9 honorees seated on the stage behind him and said, these were the kind of people who care, who are dedicated, and that it wasn't far-fetched to think they might be building the kingdom of heaven. And then he closed, not with a thank you, with a song. I learned very early in life that without a song, the day would never end. Without a song, a man ain't got a friend. Without a song, the road would never bend. Without a song. So I keep singing a song. Good night. Thank you. That's it. That's how the king of rock and roll chose to identify himself in front of the establishment that had once dismissed him. Not with a list of records sold, with a lyric. So, the obvious question is, whose lyric and why that one? The lines Elvis recited came from a song called Without a Song. It's older than Elvis himself. The music was written by Vincent Voumans, with lyrics added by Billy Rose and Edward Eliscu, and it was published in 1929. It was introduced in a Broadway musical called Great Day. Here's a piece of trivia that I love. Great Day was by commercial standards a flop. It closed after just 36 performances. But that short-lived show produced 2 songs that outlived it by generations. Great Day and the one Elvis quoted, Without a Song. Over the decades, it became a standard. Paul Whiteman with a young Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra with Tommy Dorsey, Perry Como, Willie Nelson. One note of historical accuracy and historical honesty, because this channel doesn't skip the uncomfortable parts. As originally written in 1929, the song opened with a line using a racial slur, language that was unfortunately common in popular music of that era. That opening was dropped from essentially every later recording, and it's not the version Elvis knew or quoted. I mention the original only because telling the full story of a 1929 song means telling all of it. But none of that, Sinatra, Crosby, Broadway, is the reason this lyric was in Elvis's head on that stage. For that, we have to talk about one specific man. When Elvis quoted Without a Song, he wasn't quoting Broadway. He was quoting Roy Hamilton. If that name isn't familiar, you're not alone. Hamilton doesn't get the radio play today that his talent earned. He was born in 1929 in Leesburg, Georgia, and he built a voice unlike almost anyone else of his era. Classical and operatic training fused with deep black gospel feeling. He won an amateur night at the Apollo, signed with Epic Records, and in the mid-1950s delivered towering versions of You'll Never Walk Alone and Unchained Melody, both #1 R&B hits. Here's the connection that makes the Jaycees moment land. According to biographer Peter Guralnick, Roy Hamilton was one of Elvis's chief vocal inspirations, and Elvis, in turn, was one of Hamilton's most devoted admirers. This was a boyhood idol. Now, the story gets almost cinematic. In early 1969, Elvis came home to record an American Sound studio in Memphis with producer Chips Moman. The sessions that gave us Suspicious Minds, In the Ghetto, and Don't Cry Daddy. And by sheer coincidence, Roy Hamilton was recording at the very same studio at the very same time. Moman was producing Elvis at night and Hamilton during the day. Elvis was reportedly thrilled. By accounts of those sessions, he would sometimes turn up early just to stand and listen to his hero work. And when the two men met, Elvis did something telling. He handed Hamilton a brand new song called Angelica, written by Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil, a song Elvis had been planning to record himself. He gave it to his idol instead. That song became Roy Hamilton's last single. On July 20th, 1969, Roy Hamilton died after suffering a stroke. He was just 40 years old. So, when Elvis stepped to that podium in January 1971, barely 18 months after Hamilton's death, and closed the proudest civic moment of his life by quoting Without a Song, he was, in his way, quoting the man who taught him how to sing. Elvis would go on to record several songs associated with Hamilton, including You'll Never Walk Alone, Unchained Melody, and Hurt. I don't think the song choice was casual. I think it was a tribute, a way of carrying Roy Hamilton into a room full of people who'd never heard of him. That's my reading, but the timeline makes it hard to see it any other way. Elvis received a mountain of recognition in his lifetime. Gold records, platinum records, awards he never bothered to collect in person. The Jaycees Award was different. By most accounts, it was the only major honor he ever traveled to accept in person. And it was the only trophy that didn't go into a drawer. He kept it. The award, along with the tuxedo he wore that night, has been on display at Graceland for decades, seen by visitors from around the world. Think about why that might be. This was a man born in a two-room house in Tupelo, a man who in his early career knew exactly what it felt like to be sneered at by respectable society. Too loud, too sexual, too low class. And here was the establishment itself, the Junior Chamber of Commerce, standing him up to next to scientists and statesmen and saying, "You are one of the most outstanding men of this nation." That's why he was terrified backstage, not because of the crowd, because for once, the acceptance was the kind he'd never been able to buy with a hit record, and he knew it. He had spent his life being told he was a phenomenon. That night, he was told he was a man of substance, and he answered the only way he knew how, by reaching back past the fame, past the hits, all the way to a boyhood hero, and saying that without a song, none of it would have meant anything at all. So he kept singing that song. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. The same words he used to walk off that stage. 50-something years later, the trophy is still in Memphis. The tuxedo is still behind the glass, and the song he picked, older than he was, is still doing exactly what he said it did. If this is the kind of deep dive you come to EP Vault for, you know what to do. Sourced every time. Thank you for watching, folks. Stay tuned next week. We are going to be starting our series on Elvis and Kathy. So you don't want to miss that, folks. I believe it's going to start on Thursday the 11th. So it's going to go for 8 weeks, so you don't want to miss it. So thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share, hype, you know the drill. And I'll see you around.
Without a sound, day would never end without a song. The road would never bend when things go wrong. A man ain't got a friend without a song. That field of gold would never see a plow. That field of corn would be deserted now. A child is born, but he's no good no how without a song. I've got my troubles and woe, but sure as I know that Jordan will roll, I'll get along as long as a song is sung in my soul. I'll never know what makes the rain to fall. I'll never know what makes the grass so tall. I only know